a wedding that no one expected, hidden after the credits, and a love story that quietly changes everything in the world of Bridgerton. Imagine the screen fading to black, the music slowing down. And just when everyone thinks the story is over, a new scene begins. In that quiet moment, two people who were never meant to be together finally stand side by side. This is not just another romantic moment. This is the moment when Benedict Bridgerton finally chooses love over society. And when Sophie Beckett finally steps into the life she was always denied, the story leading to this moment is full of secrets, doubts, and quiet hope. From the beginning, Benedict was never like the other men in the Bridgerton family. While others cared deeply about reputation and social rules, Benedict often looked beyond those limits. He loved art, freedom, and the idea that life could be more than the strict world around him. That is exactly why Sophie caught his attention in a way no one else ever had. When they first met, she was mysterious and almost unreachable, like someone who did not belong to the glittering world of balls and grand houses. But something about her stayed in Benedict's mind. He could not forget her calm voice, her honest eyes, and the quiet strength she carried with her, even when he did not know her true identity. He felt that she was different from everyone else he had ever met. For Sophie, the world was never kind or fair. She grew up in the shadows of society, always close enough to see the beauty of high society, but never allowed to truly be part of it. Her life was built on hard work, silence, and survival. Every day she had to remember that people like her were not meant to dream about love with men like Benedict. That was the rule society had written long before she was born. But the heart does not always listen to rules. Every time Sophie and Benedict crossed paths, there was a quiet connection between them. It was not loud or dramatic at first. Instead, it felt natural, like two people slowly realizing that they understood each other in a way no one else did. As their story moves forward, the distance between their worlds becomes the biggest challenge. Benedict belongs to one of the most respected families in London. His name opens doors, commands respect, and carries expectations that he cannot easily escape. Sophie, on the other hand, lives a life where her name often means nothing at all. The difference between them is not just about wealth. It is about how society sees them. Friends, family, and strangers all expect Benedict to marry someone from the same social class, someone who fits perfectly into the elegant world of the Bridgertons. Sophie knows this better than anyone. She understands that loving Benedict could bring pain not only to herself but also to him. Yet the more time they spend together, the harder it becomes to ignore what they feel. Benedict begins to see the truth that society refuses to admit that kindness, strength, and honesty matter more than titles or family names. Sophie begins to believe, even if only for a moment, that maybe her story could be different from what she was always told. Their conversations become deeper, their moments together become more meaningful. And slowly, the idea of a future together stops feeling impossible. But every step forward also brings new fears. What will happen if the truth about Sophie's past becomes known? Will the Bridgerton family accept her, or will they see her only as someone who does not belong in their world? These questions follow them everywhere. Even in the happiest moments, there is always a shadow of doubt. But love has a strange way of growing stronger in difficult situations. Instead of walking away, Benedict becomes more determined to understand Sophie's life and the struggles she has faced. He begins to realize that the rules of society are not always right, and that sometimes the bravest choice is to stand against them. Sophie, however, still worries about what her presence might cost him. She knows that marrying her could change how people see Benedict forever. By the time their story reaches its most emotional point, the choice in front of them is clear, but incredibly difficult. Benedict must decide whether he will follow the path that society expects from him, or the path that his heart is pulling him toward. Sophie must decide whether she can trust that someone from a completely different world truly sees her worth. The answer to those questions slowly builds toward a moment that feels both quiet and powerful. A moment that will finally show whether love is strong enough to overcome the walls that society has built between them. Asterisk. The moment when love begins to feel real is often the moment when fear becomes the strongest. For Benedict Bridgerton and Sophie Beckett, their connection had already grown into something deep and impossible to ignore. But the closer they came to each other, the clearer the truth became. Their love was not just about two hearts meeting. It was about challenging an entire world built on class, titles, strict expectations inside the society of Bridgerton. Benedict had always believed that life should be lived with freedom. Unlike many men of his time, he did not enjoy the idea that society could decide who someone should love. Yet even for him, reality was more complicated than his ideals. Every time he returned home to the grand Bridgerton house, he was reminded of the weight his family name carried. Being a Bridgerton meant honor, reputation, and tradition. It meant that every choice he made could become the talk of the entire city. And in that world, love was often less important than status. But Sophie was the one person who made him question everything he had once accepted. She did not try to impress him with fancy words or perfect manners. She spoke honestly, sometimes even challenging him in ways no one else dared to do. That honesty fascinated Benedict. With her, he did not feel like a man who needed to protect his reputation. Instead, he felt like someone who could finally be his true self. For Sophie, the situation was far more painful. She understood society in a way Benedict never fully could. She had spent her entire life watching from the outside, seeing how easily people judged others based on wealth and family name. She knew that no matter how kind or brave she was, the world would still see her as someone beneath a man like Benedict. That knowledge followed her everywhere, like a quiet voice reminding her not to dream too much. There were moments when Sophie, almost allowed herself to believe in a future with him. When Benedict looked at her, there was no judgment in his eyes. Only warmth, curiosity, and a kind of respect she had rarely experienced before. Those moments felt magical, like small pieces of a different life that could have existed if the world were more fair. But magic never lasts forever. Reality always finds a way to return. Rumors began to spread slowly through London's high society. People started noticing how often Benedict disappeared from grand events. They whispered about the mysterious woman he had been seen speaking with. Curiosity soon turned into quiet gossip, and gossip in that society was a dangerous thing. A single story, repeated enough times, it could destroy reputations and close doors forever. Benedict heard these whispers. But instead of pulling away from Sophie, he felt an even stronger need to protect her. For the first time in his life, he realized that love was not just about beautiful moments. It was also about standing beside someone when the world begins to question them. The more people tried to remind him of the difference between his world and Sophie's, the more he began to see how unfair those rules truly were. Sophie, however, started to feel the pressure building around them. She could see the risk growing larger every day. If their relationship became public, it would not only affect Benedict, it could bring attention to her past, her struggles, and the painful secrets she had tried so hard to leave behind. The idea that her presence might harm the Bridgerton family filled her with quiet guilt. One evening, during a calm conversation far away from the noise of society, Sophie finally spoke the fear she had been hiding. She told Benedict that love alone might not be enough to fight the world they lived in. Her voice was gentle but honest. The kind of truth that hurts because it feels so real. She believed that sooner or later, he would have to choose between his family's expectations and the life they were imagining together. For a moment, not because he did not care, but because the weight of that choice suddenly felt very real. He knew Sophie was right about the challenges ahead. Society rarely forgave those who broke its rules. Yet when he looked at her, he realized something even more important. Walking away from her would not protect him from pain. It would only leave him wondering for the rest of his life what might have been. And in that quiet moment, something inside Benedict began to change. The man who once dreamed of freedom through art and adventure started to understand that true courage was not about escaping society. It was about standing firm against it when love demanded it. What he did next would not only shape his future with Sophie, but also lead them toward a moment that would surprise everyone watching. A hidden moment that would appear only after the credits had rolled. Asterisk by the time the final moments arrive. Everything feels quiet, almost too quiet. The grand drama, the whispers of society, and the fears that once stood between them slowly fade away. and then something unexpected happens. After the episode ends and the screen fades to black, a hidden moment appears. A soft continuation of the story inside the world of Bridgerton that feels